Hey guys, welcome back to my channel According to Asia, and today we're going to talk about autism. I think this is a great topic to talk about, especially in our community. look what my shirt says, okay? You see it. Anyway, let's talk a little bit. I use my platform to definitely highlight a lot of things regarding autism. I am parenting autism. I have two children that have been diagnosed with autism and are on the spectrum. So let's get started. First, I'm going to talk about my daughter because that's when I first even got introduced to autism. So it started with, I had my daughter. She was born in 2016 and everything was great. She was the baby that we planned. Mind you guys, I have an older child. His name is DJ and he's absolutely amazing. But today we're going to talk about autism. And so my daughter was diagnosed. So I started seeing signs, right? Everybody always wants to know, what did you notice? How did you get help? What made you get help? Things like that. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit the like, and so that I can continue to create amazing content and help you guys as much as possible, because I think that is really important, especially in our community, to talk more about it, right? Because so many people are suffering in silence, and I just hate that for y'all. I decided to go public with the things that were going on in my family because I just felt like I was going through so much and I just needed to vent and to have an outlet about it. And it just so happened that my community found me and they showed for me daily, okay? We locked in, okay? My family is y'all family and y'all family is my family. Okay, so let's talk about my daughter. She was typical baby, typical child, hitting all of her milestones. Actually, she started walking at 13 months, right? She was saying mama, dada, everything was normal. She crawled on time, everything was fine. Then all of a sudden, right after her first birthday, we did go to the doctor. She was, getting her normal checkup and all the things that come with that. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to get flagged, but So she did get all of those and she was up to date and current, right? Not even 24 hours later, my baby got sick. She had a fever. And they say that that's it comes with it, right? So after her birthday party, she was miserable. She was sad. She cried. And it just felt like after that appointment, I lost my daughter. And that's the only way I can describe it to you guys. Literally, the light went off behind my daughter's eyes. And I could actually, maybe I'll show some pictures and some videos just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But she went from this happy baby, always smiling, taking pictures, talking, babbling, to just nothing. It was literally she was gone. She was there, but she was not there. So I was just I just chunked it up to that being her personality, or that was just her, her attitude. So I was just all right, you know what? She's fine. It's nothing to worry about. But then as time progressed, I just realized that the words that she used to say, she used to say dada, she wasn't saying anymore. She used to say baba, she used to say all those things, and she wasn't saying anything. She wasn't even interested in saying anything, right? So then I started noticing she wasn't making any eye contact. And as a mom, you know, okay? I just want to tell you guys, disclaimer, you feel it deep down inside, get that baby some help, okay? That's just my disclaimer to y'all. I love y'all, and I'm only telling y'all this because I actually love you guys and I care about our community. And if nobody's gonna say it, I'm gonna say it. There's nothing wrong with getting your child evaluated. Just point blank period. Y'all think it's something wrong, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's actually more help, right? It's gonna help them. It's gonna do way more good than bad, right? So even if nothing is wrong in the future, that's okay, because at least they have the extra help right now when they need it in the fundamental stages, right? So if you have a young child that is under the age, let's just say, right, if they're 3 years old and they're not talking, that's a problem. That's an issue. I don't care what your pediatrician say, your child should be talking. 3 years old, they should be trying to talk to you. They should be engaging. They should be eye contact, being able to sit down. Those things are non-negotiable. Your child should be able to do that. And if they're not, get them evaluated, okay? So what I say is earlier, the better. Right? Back to the story. So Araya just wasn't saying anything. She stopped having eye contact. I brought it up to the pediatrician. I was just like, you know, do you think that this is normal? And she's like, yeah, you know, all kids are different, because I was comparing her to my son DJ, and I was like, you know, she should have had more words by now, and honestly I feel like it's like less words. And they were like, oh no, you know, every child is different, you don't really want to, you know, compare each child. So I'm like, all right, fine. So that was after she had got the round of, you know what. So that was at the 15 month, right? Because I think you go every 3 months until they're like 2 years old or something. So at 15 months, I was like, you know, I have a little bit of concerns. I feel like she should be saying a lot more words than she's actually saying. The pediatrician was like, oh, don't worry. Everything is going to be fine. Like, every child is different. Just give her some more time. You know, we'll watch it. We'll watch on it, and we'll come back. You know, we'll revisit it when you come back. So now 18 months, and I'm like, girl, ain't nothing happening. Like, if anything, it's staying at a standstill, or it's getting worse. So I just knew in my heart that something was different, right? And I was struggling with this, and I was talking to my husband and talking to family members, and they're like, oh, it's normal, you know, that's just her personality, she just doesn't want to be bothered. Then I started noticing, like, you know, when other children be around, or like people would come in the room, and she would literally not even engage. Like, she wouldn't even look up. Like, you could be playing, like, she'll be playing, not even really playing, because she was like really, she wasn't a kid that like really played with toys. She used to like just throw them around kind of thing, like at this point after 12 months. And so she more so got more obsessed with like shoes and bags. So I just thought like, oh, you know, she's just my little girly girl, my little princess that likes shoes, and she just want to dress up, and she like clothes. So like, you know, when you would buy your child toys and gifts, she did not care. But if you got her like a purse or a pair of shoes, she would like hold it up and look at it. Like, that was a thing for her. So I just thought that was just like, oh, okay, that's just gonna be her personality, fine, no problem, right? But so now fast forward, she's at the 18-month pediatrician visit, and so she's basically, I'm telling the pediatrician like nothing has changed. You know, I'm really worried, and I think that she may need to be evaluated. Lo and behold, this whole time I thought I needed a referral to get an evaluation, right? Because, okay, let me just tell you a little backstory. So DJ, when he was younger, he did need speech therapy. And, you know, I know that like that's kind of something that runs in like my family and Dwayne's family, like the speech therapy thing. So I was just like, you know what, let me just get him some help. And look, everything, you know, he turned out fine. Everything was fine. He just needed speech therapy up until he was 5 years old, and then he was fine. He was good to go. Like, he used to say words, but it wasn't clear. Like, he needed help. And it honestly absolutely helped, and I would do it all over again, right? So in my mind, oh man, my light died, guys, I'm sorry. So back then I was on Medicaid, right? So it was different. Like, you could just call up or whatever, and it was easy to get speech therapy, like, for me. So I'm thinking the same way, but now, you know, we married, we got different kind of health insurance, so I wasn't really sure how it works. So I was really leaning on a pediatrician to explain things to me when I should have been doing the research, right? But I didn't know, so I'm gonna just chalk that up to I didn't know what I didn't know. But I kind of knew, so I was just a little bit like in denial a little bit, I guess you could say, which is fine, right? But like, you know, you feel like something is different with your child, and you can either rise to the occasion, or you can act as if, oh, they'll get better, or you can do something about it, right? So so now 18 months come past. At this point with the pediatrician, I'm just done with her, because I just feel like, girl, you rushing us in and out. We got 15-minute sessions, but it was in Westchester at the time. We lived in New York, and so I thought that this was the next best thing. It was a better like environment, better doctor, things like that. So when I told her like I think she needed a referral for speech, she's like, oh, well, you don't really need a referral. You can just call 311 and get, and that's how they put you on the list for someone to reach out to you to get early intervention. Girl, when she told me that, I was like, why you ain't saying it from the beginning? I would have been called, because I knew something was different in my child after she turned 12 months, right? Now, mind you, we're at 18 months at this time. So now I'm like, all of this time, we could have gotten her the help that she needed, right? But also they try to wait until you're around 2 years old to really, you know, get you the help, when really they should be giving you more help the younger, because your brain is still developing. So it's way easier to get the help earlier on. So boom. Now you ain't gotta say much. I called them people as soon as I got off the phone with her, and I'm like, you know, I think my child may need early intervention. I would like to get her evaluated just to see if maybe she needs speech therapy. Boom. So they, first of all, back then it was so much different than how it is now. Like the stories that I've been hearing now, like that you guys tell me, it's just bananas. And the amount of cases is bananas. The amount of no therapists, no case managers, it don't make no sense. And I'm just so sorry that is the situation, you know, because it's very unfortunate for our children. That's the only people that's really getting hurt by it, you know. And so once I called, so you called 311, they put you into where your zip code was at. At that time we were in the Bronx. So I had a lady call me and she's like, yeah, you know, we can schedule somebody to come out. So I think it was like maybe 3 weeks I had to wait, if that. It could have been 2 weeks, but I'm gonna just give it 3 weeks just okay. So the case manager called out. She makes a home visit. She comes to the house. Let me tell y'all, because I'll never forget this lady. I don't remember her name, but I'll never forget her, and I don't want her to do that job anymore. So she comes over and she's just basically like, you know, she asked me all these questions about Araya and about her progress and when she was little and things like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, everything is fine. Then she's like, at the end, right, she's like looking at her. She didn't really engage with her as much. Like it was more so her talking to me. But at the end she was like, well, have you ever heard of autism? And I'm like, no. Like I literally, like I've heard of the word, but I didn't really know what it was, right? And so she's like, well, you know, I think your daughter may have autism. So now I'm like, well, what the hell is autism? In my mind, I thought it was just a speech delay because she just literally wasn't talking. But as we sat down and we was talking more, and she's just like, you know, I think that she may have autism and I want to have all these people come out and evaluate her. So speech came out, OT, all these people came out and they had a behavioral, no, what was she? No, she wasn't, she was a psychologist. I think it was a psychologist. They come out and they talking to me. So she comes back to my house and she's just like, you know, I don't want you to Google autism or anything because a lot of stuff that pops up is really bad. And it's not that bad, you know? That's what she tells me. And she's like, whatever you do, just don't Google it and everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna take care of you guys. So I'm like, oh, okay, ha. I close the door. I Google immediately. I pull out my phone and I'm like, what is autism? Girl, when I tell you, the stuff that was showing up had me in a chokehold. Like I was crying. Like I was a mess because the things that were displayed was like children with the helmets on, banging their head. Like they were, it was, and nothing's wrong with that, right? But it was just like the worst of the worst of the worst, what they showed on Google at that time. And so I'm just like, oh my God, like, mind you, I wasn't even really reading like what it said. I just was like, oh my God, something is wrong with my perfect princess, right? That's how I felt. Something was wrong with my princess. And I'm just here to tell you, it's nothing wrong with your child. It's nothing wrong with your children. They are perfect as they are. God don't make no mistakes, okay? He gave this to his strongest soldiers. And when I tell you that, I never had the amount of patience that I have today. I never had the amount of grace. I never had this amount of just everything. Like I genuinely believe that God knew that I could handle this and I could make a difference in this world and that I could change people's lives. And that's what I'm doing every day. So this is the main reason why I'm doing this YouTube, is because I just want to have this in one place, right? So boom, you come to my page, you want to know more, boom, here's the video, okay? So make sure you guys subscribe, okay? So I could be a successful YouTuber, because that's what's on my list for 2025, okay? We're going to be on here talking about everything. Anything you guys need to know, that's what we're going to talk about. But now back to it, right? So boom, so she has a lady come out, and all these people come out and they're evaluating Araya, and these are days when she's just not feeling it, right? Like people will walk in the house and she literally would not even look up and acknowledge that somebody was there. Like they would talk to her, call her name, she wouldn't look, she wouldn't respond. She was just literally in her own world. Like no smiling, no laughing, just there. Like it just didn't make sense. It's just like, what is wrong with my daughter? That's how I felt, right? Nothing is wrong with your child, but that's how I felt. And I was young and I didn't have all of the knowledge that I have now, but I'm just telling you about how I felt back then. So So now I'm worried. I'm on 10 because I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean? What's wrong with her? Mind y'all, I'm pregnant already. I got pregnant again. Don't ask me how. It was not planned. Anyway, if they tell you you can't get pregnant while you're breastfeeding, that is a lie. Okay, that's a lie because that's how we have Dylan. But anyway, so I was pregnant at the time, and now that makes me even more worried because I'm like, what do you mean she has autism? And I'm looking up things and special needs, and I'm like, oh my God, like, so I'm just freaking panicking. Like, it's bad, right? So she starts getting therapy, and I'm like, at first I was very not like, it wasn't that I wasn't supportive of it, but I just felt like, oh, she only needs speech. But in the beginning, they gave her speech twice a week. They gave her OT twice a week. They gave her ABA. It was a lot. And it was just too much for us at the time. Like, they had, like, I think she was prescribed like maybe like 20 hours for the week. Like, it was crazy the amount that they wanted her to have that young. And so I know it's a lot of bad things surrounding the whole ABA, but let me tell you something. ABA has changed my kids' lives, okay, for the better. And I put it all to ABA. I put it to God. I put it to all the resources, all the things that, like, I looked up, we figured out, right? She was getting services, everything was fine, right? She had an ABA therapist, she had a speech therapist, she had an OT therapist, and it was just a lot. It was a lot for us. It was a lot for me. Mind you, I went back to work, so I was working. I was able to work from home at that time, but it was a lot. Like, it was too much for me to handle, to be honest. And so she started getting the therapies, and then I had my next door neighbor used to babysit her, and she used to get the therapies there. But it was just a lot, but it actually helped so much, and I'm so happy that I got it for her as early as I did, right? So she got early intervention, and then after that, what happened? Oh, there were so many inconsistent therapists that it literally drove me crazy. So my daughter was one of those kids that, like, she needed to warm up to you, right? So it could take like 3 months for her to really warm up to seeing your face every single day. So every time she would get acclimated with one therapist, the therapist would literally quit the company. So at that point, I don't even know if they were like highly trained or whatever. Like, I don't know how that worked, but they were severely underpaid. So I don't blame them for leaving, but it just was hard because every time my daughter would build a rapport, literally it didn't matter because they were leaving. So that happened 3 times with us. We had 3 different therapists quit, ABA therapists and a speech therapist quit. And so I was like, you know what, this is not working for me. Then she turns 3 years old. She turns 3 years old. Mind you, I already had Dylan at that point. Everything was fine with him, you know, but I was really on high alert because I started doing research, and they do say that when the kids are so close in age, they're almost like 100% like diagnosed, basically. So that's just was what I got at that time, right? I don't know how, like, don't quote me on that, but that's something that I had read before. So now I'm on high alert because I'm like, oh my God, my daughter has autism and my son probably is gonna have it as well. But so I was just, you know, keeping an eye on him. He was doing great, doing all his milestones, everything was good, right? Nice, happy baby. And my daughter turned 3. So now in New York City, it goes from early intervention to CPSC, I believe. And that's when they go to like an outside facility. So they'll stay there from like 8 to 2 or something like that, or whatever. Or they could do 9 to 12. It just depends on, you know, what place you pick. So I picked this place in the Bronx. Damn, I can't remember the name because I would definitely tag them because I really like them. But it just wasn't for me. After a while, I just felt like I started doing more research, and I just felt like if she had more consistency as far as like in the school, because now at this point she's outside of the house, so I can't even really see what's going on. I don't know what they're teaching her. I don't know anything because she's nonverbal, so she's not telling me anything. So now I'm like, you know what? Boom. I'm like, I gotta start doing some research. So one day, you know those quotes when they be like, when you on Zillow and you got $11 in your bank account? I kid you not. I mean, it wasn't $11, but it wasn't no money to be like, oh, we buying a house. So I told my husband, I'm like, babe, we gotta move. We gotta move because Araya needs better services, and if we stay here, she's never gonna get it. So he's like, what do you mean we gotta move? We just bought this house. And I'm like, we could keep the house. Let's just move. We'll figure it out. Long story short, he was with it. My baby was with it. Oh, and then to go back, the backstory of that was finding out Araya had autism was really tough for our family, because I feel like my husband was in denial for a really long time. So he went through all of the emotions of sad, angry, disbelief, all of those things, right? And it didn't help that, like, I feel like our families wasn't really supportive either. So I literally felt like I was alone. And that's the reason why I feel like I try to help people. If they DM me, I write them back, because I know what it feels like to be alone when you're dealing with this and there's no one there to help you. So that's the reason why I'm using my platform to try to help as many families as I can. And if I can, and whatever I'm using, whatever I'm doing, and if it's good, I'm gonna let you guys know, because sharing is caring over here, and we don't gatekeep, okay? We want everybody to win, and especially our children, because they are the future, right? Like, just period. So that was like a thing that we had to get over. Now I told him, all right, we gotta move. He like, all right, well, show me, make it happen. Like, how you gonna make it happen? Anyway, long story short, I put that cap on and I made it happen, okay? So what I started to do was I started researching the best towns for autism, the best states for autism, right? So initially, like, I knew I didn't want to leave. I didn't want my husband to be too far, because he still worked in New York. So I started Googling, like, autism schools, things like that. I was doing the research. People always just want to ask you, oh, where do you live? What school you put your kids in? I'm not telling y'all that. This is a safety aspect, okay? Like, at the end of the day, I know I share a lot, but it's just some things. Like, don't ask me what school my kids go to. I'm never going to tell y'all that, okay? Like, let's just put that out there. That's a disclaimer. I'm never going to tell y'all what school my kids go to, what town I live in, none of that, okay? So I Googled. Google is your best friend. If you need other personal advice, I'm here for you. This is what I did. I Googled autism communities, the best autism schools, and that's how I went, right? So the needs that I needed is not going to be the same for everybody, right? So I was able to find a lot of towns, right? So I believe like Long Island was a top contender. It was between Long Island, upstate New York, and New Jersey. I knew that I had to get at least close to those areas, because those were the places that had the best autism schools. So I'm like, all right, what I gotta do? So I told my husband, like, let's move to Long Island. He didn't want to move to Long Island. He was like, no, I don't want to pay tolls, this is that. So I'm like, all right, fine. Then I'm like, all right, well, we were gonna move upstate, but then I'm like, that's way too far. Like, I don't want to be upstate in the suburb, like far with the bears and stuff. So then I'm like, all right, babe, let's move to Jersey. So he's like, all right, if we move to Jersey, but I don't want to be too far, because I don't want my commute to be too far. But then he was like, oh, the tolls, this, that. But at the end of the day, I was like, listen, we're gonna do one of these moves. You gotta be with it, because this is for our kids. So it ended up working out. Mind you, what I did was I wanted to be as close as possible to the best communities that had best schools for autism, right? So for me, it wasn't necessarily my town, but I knew that if I was in the vicinity, they would bus my child to the school, right? If they didn't have the services that they needed in that town, they will bus them to the nearest closest town. So that was my whole biggest thing, okay? So I knew that, like, I needed to get where you pay more taxes, the schools are going to be better. That's just the reality of it. And it sucks. I know it definitely sucks, especially for, the middle class, because it's like, you live where you live, and you can't help where you live. Like, it's unfortunate that they don't give the resources to the poorer communities. So, like, for example, where I lived, the resources freaking sucked. Even though, like, we had a house there, we were paying taxes, it just didn't matter, because they didn't give a F about the community. And that's just what it is for New York City. I'm not saying all of New York, but majority New York City, okay? So after that, what I did was, so boom, we found the house. Now, how it works is that Araya was 3, and I was trying to get her in school as soon as possible. We found the house. We ended up having to work on the house, do all of this stuff, but they wanted to make sure that we were residents of New Jersey. So what I knew that if I had a diagnosis, they could not put her in the class, right? So like they had these, it was for pre-K, but it would be free pre-K if they had a diagnosis, because she then qualified for everything, right? So that's the first thing that I did, was I got my child a official diagnosis. So in Jersey, what they do is a little bit different. So with New York, what they had was the case study manager came out and the 3 other therapists came out, and then they just determined from there, like, all of their stuff together, and they determined. So what I did this time was I went to a developmental and behavioral pediatrician, and that's how I was able to get my child a diagnosis super fast as soon as I moved. Because when you go straight, or if you go to a neurologist, you can get a diagnosis faster than if I would have just went through the local, you know, CPSC. I don't know what it's called in Jersey, but if I would have just went through that, it would have took a lot more time. But at that time, our insurance didn't cover those testing, so I had to pay for all that stuff in cash. So I ended up going to Children's Specialized Hospital. So I got them diagnosed, and I actually went for a second opinion too, because I just wanted to make sure. So I got the paperwork from when they were younger, so I'm just gonna read to you, right? So Araya had the diagnosis of autism, and she was on the she is on the spectrum disorder. Then it says a diagnosis of mixed receptive expressive language disorder and fine motor delay. That's what they came up with, and they decided that she will need occupational therapy, developmental instruction, speech therapy, and early intervention. So we ended up coming with the IEP, and that's how we were able to get her the services that she needed. Mind you, she's still nonverbal at this time. So what I did was I showed up for my children, okay? I was at that school all the time because I wanted them to see my face. And this is another gem, okay? Show up at your kid's school, be present, answer those emails, go to every single meeting. I don't care what happens. If you gotta take off from work, you gotta do it, okay? Because when you show up and you show them that you care about your child, they're gonna care about your child. And not saying that they don't care, but they're gonna do everything that they can do for your child to help your child get to the next level if they see it in you first, okay? That's a gem. So it said that she had poor eye contact, doesn't respond to name, poor awareness of other, prefers to play alone. She leads by hand. That's the way she communicated to us. No 2-word phrases, doesn't respond to questions, no pretend play, difficulty following 1-step command, difficulty following 2-step commands, no imaginary play, repetitive, restrictive behavior. So she used to flap her hands, line up toys, peers at objects, spins in circles sometimes, likes to run back and forth. Those were her, the things that she used to do when she was at that time with all the things that we noticed and we came up with collectively. She also had a lot of tantrums. She used to cry a lot and fall down to the floor, and it was really, really hard. And also she had difficulties with transition. She was very sensitive to sound. It says tactile sensitivity. So she did not like to sit in the bath. She used to cry. She never wanted to get her hair wet. She never wanted to get her face wet. She hated the bath. That was a big thing when she was younger. She was very sensory seeking. She liked to brush her teeth. She liked to put small toys on her lips. She liked tight hugs and being bounced up and down, but she needed a routine. She did not play with others, and she was unable to dress herself. This is all by the age of 3 years old. So these were things that were concerning, that what they put in, and this is why she was able to qualify, and this is why she got a diagnosis of autism. And she had a difficulty with sleeping. Those were the things, right? So if you guys don't learn anything from me, take this and run with it, okay? And the video is getting kind of long, so we're gonna pretty much stop, and let me know if you guys need anything more. And then the next video we'll go into Dylan, and I'll explain how different they were, but it still was the same, right? But I'll explain it to you guys in the next video, and I hope to see you guys next time. I hope that I helped. If you have any questions, please drop it down below. Make sure you guys subscribe, and I love you guys. And follow me on Instagram according to Asia. Follow me on TikTok according to Asia. But we locked in YouTube. We're gonna get it uncut and raw. If you ask me a question, I'm definitely gonna answer it. And absolutely love you guys. Bye.